let's just get started. Welcome to episode 3 of the Knitten Purl Podcast. My name is Ivy. I am a knitter based in Vancouver, Canada, where I live with my 3 cats. This is a bit of a weirder start to the podcast, which has only had weird starts because it was the first one where I didn't know what I was doing, the second one where I knew a little bit more what I was doing but almost had my boob out for most of it, and now I am sitting awkwardly on the couch because one of my cats, Scout, crawled in here while I was finishing a row for the podcast and crawled inside the blanket, and yeah, I didn't want to disturb him, so I thought, you know what, might as well film, and he can sleep in here when he wants or come out when he's ready. And this is Harper right here. So yeah, welcome to my podcast. This is a blanket that I did not make, and it is very nice. A lot of people do ask me if I've made this. It's fairly old and has a lot of pilling and has a fleece. The other side of it is fleece, and it's got lots of cables, and every time I look at it I'm like, wow, this is really great handiwork that I did not make. So yeah, let's get started. Today I have 2 finished objects to talk about and 2 works in progress, but I'll start with what I'm wearing. If you can see this, and actually you have to be really careful when I move. Well, I don't have to be, I'm choosing to be very careful when I move because Scout is a stickler for having blanket over top of him, but he can't have the blanket touching his head. So I have to keep my legs over him, and I have to be his tent. So yeah, he's pretty choosy. But what I'm wearing is the Ursina sweater by Jacqueline Cieslak. This was a finished object the last time that I filmed, and I didn't keep my hands still for more than 1 second at a time, so I doubt any of you got a very good look, but I'm very happy with it. It is knit out of Wool in the Gang's shiny happy cotton in the eagle gray colorway, which some lovely co-workers gifted me for my birthday. I was actually chatting with one of the co-workers, and she said that the color that this looked online was very different than how it ended up being in real life. And looking at the website, I agree that it was definitely looks bluer online than it does in real life. This in real life is like it looks more blue-gray online, and this in real life is just a kind of darker blue. The young master is annoyed and wants me to be quieter. Anyways, so this is, I believe I knit the second size, even though I did not get gauge, and went with some weird gauge, which a couple lovely viewers have actually helped me with the math for now, so I am very grateful, and also, how do I want to say this, like embarrassed for my future self when I will still not know and still get it wrong. But yeah, I went with a random gauge, and okay, let me back up. So the pattern, the Ursina, has 2 gauges given it, which is very lovely. It has sport weight and worsted. I went with worsted because this yarn, which is 100% cotton, is, I would say, between a worsted and Aran weight. Oh, am I being too loud, Scalpoo? I'm sorry. And regardless of the fact that it did have a worsted weight gauge, I was not able to get gauge with the needles I wanted, the needle size, and still have a fabric that I liked, because I wanted this to, I like this fabric is I guess what I'm trying to say. So instead of doing the math and figuring out what size I needed to knit, I decided that I just went with a size 2 because why not? YOLO. I think I just didn't want to knit more stitches and go up a size. And in my last podcast, I was very smug about how it fits great anyways, but what I neglected to mention is that Jacqueline Cieslak also does give very good instructions in the pattern for trying on as you go and adjusting the fit. This is also a poor pattern in hindsight for me to just YOLO and be like, oh, it's top down, I can try it on as I go. Oh, I'm so sorry. But because it has half brioche, so it has half brioche detail on the raglan seams. On the underarms, it's got this lovely seam going down on the front and the back, and a half brioche triangle detail that is on the front and the back. And because of that, because of the way half brioche is worked, where it's, you know, like a yarn over and a brioche knit stitch the next row, the pattern actually has you knit by a number of rows instead of by a number of inches, which was what I was more used to with the patterns I did in the past. So really not having gauge for the pattern should have meant that I would not have had a sweater that fit, but Jacqueline Cieslak has very good instructions in the pattern for how to calculate when to start this detail how far down to knit, depending on how long you want the length to be and when to start this detail. So yeah, it's very well explained in the pattern, and thanks to that and the fact that it is top down and I could try it on as I went, meant that the sweater fits great. And I actually, knit it almost exactly to pattern. I think I knit the length a little bit longer, and I think I did one more round of increases, even though I didn't need to. In pattern, this fit is going for a very fitted sleeve, and yeah, I really didn't need to do that extra round of increases. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. Super happy with the fit of it. I love the half brioche. Yeah, again, it's something that I want to knit more of in the future and want to attempt full brioche, even though I'm not quite sure what that is. But the main drawback of this pattern is that the yarn attracts cat hair like the bejesus. And it is like the kind of softness that just pulls pet hair out of the air, attaches it all over, and is the kind of sweater that I have to lint brush quite vigorously, like as a last step before I leave the house, the apartment. And then even so, just by living, it is looking very cat haired. So one of the reasons why I am constantly looking down is because I just noticed cat hair all over this, and I did lint brush this right before pressing record. It's just how it goes in this household, I guess. So yeah, so the fact that it is a cat hair magnet makes it a little bit less wearable, though I do think I just need to bite the bullet and decide that this is just like a home sweater, because what else am I gonna do with it? It has cat hair like woven into the structural integrity of it by now. What else did I want to say about this? Oh yeah, I am wearing it today because it is actually starting to warm up in Vancouver, finally, which means it's actually it's a tad too warm to wear this sweater, and I may not be able to get much wear out of this until the fall, because it is actually quite warm despite it being 100% cotton. I guess because of the weight of the fabric. I don't know anything about knitting. I don't know anything about clothes. Would this be warmer if it was wool? I don't know. What about acrylic? I don't know. So yeah, so that's the Ursina. I'm very happy with it. It was so fun to knit. Easy, but enjoyable. Like, there was a lot of new things to try, things to keep me interested, and I would totally knit this again in the sport weight. Yeah, give it a try. Okay, so let's talk about finished objects. I have two. They're both kind of cheater because they are not adult size. So I will start with this one. Okay, this is the Flax sweater, the ubiquitous Flax sweater by Tin Can Knits. This is knit in the baby size, 1 to 2 year, I believe. And I'll hold it like this so y'all can see. I can't tell which way is the front and which, this should be the front and this should be the back. It is a gift knit. And it is knit for one of my best friends who will be visiting in July with her baby. The baby will be about 8 months old in July, and given that this is a sweater and July is the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, I figured that by the time it's sweater weather, he'll be about a year old, and then, you know, why not? I don't have any experience with children's bodies, so I'm really hoping this fits. Like, does this look like it's gonna fit a 1-year-old? I mean, I don't know. Not spending a lot of time around 1-year-olds. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it because it is done and vaguely sweater shaped, but I can't really give my full review of this sweater until I know that it would fit a child. I see a lot of people online saying that they love baby knits because they go by so quickly, and it's true. Like, it took me a week to knit this versus like weeks and weeks for, you know, a sweater for me. But I think after I saw the fact that everybody online was saying, oh, baby knits take so quick, I was like, by day 3, I'm like, why am I still knitting this sweater? Like, this should be done already. But it's also, I also see people online talking about how, you know, knitting a baby sweater can be a great way to learn and practice techniques. And I do agree with that assessment because on the sweater, I practiced a number of new techniques. I practiced a tubular cast on. So I did that for the top collar and did a okay job on joining the two together. Not really. That is something I'll continue to have to work on. Let's see, what else did I do? I did German short rows on the back. That's was suggested in the pattern. I don't know if babies need short rows in the back. I also don't know if I did them right, but I did them. I went with a make one right and a make one left on the increases, but I don't know if I recommend that because after you do the increases, the pattern does ask you to work even, which means just like keep kind of working the same stitch pattern until you reach a certain length. And after the increases, like, you can pretty quickly tell where they stop because that raglan detail just stops. So yeah, in terms of looks, like, I'm not too sure about that. And I'm also kind of worried about the fit because I worked even to that length specified in the pattern, and then I worked the short rows, which adds a little bit more length in the back. So could have a very like gappy underarm, but I don't know, like, just call that street style for the baby. Is that a thing? This, like all of my knits, is covered in cat hair, but I think that is okay. And I think in terms of gift knits, like, I mean, the sweater is fine, right? Like, it's a nice mint acrylic from some stash ice yarns that I had, Softly Baby. So, you know, machine washable. Oh, and I also practiced tubular bind off on the bottom hem, which looks just very messy. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, excuse me, Scout, but the bottom hem does not look nice. It looks even more messy on the back. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so in terms of gift knits, like it's a fine sweater. Like it's for a baby. Like my friend can, you know, pop the kit in it if possible, take a quick picture, send it to me, and then donate it. Like I don't really mind or care. It's probably not my best work or like anyone's best work. It's a little bit messy looking, and yeah, now that I'm looking at my cast off, I'm really not sure about it, if that's the way it's supposed to look, but I am proud that I got it done. And yeah, sweater for a baby, very cute. I actually really ended up liking the garter detail on the sleeves. Oh, and I knit these sleeves 2 at a time, which was the last thing that I practiced. And that, I don't know how I feel about 2 at a time. So took me about like an hour of getting the stitches on and off the needles when picking up the, like putting the sleeve stitches from being on hold to on the needles, because I kept putting them on in the wrong order so that I couldn't start the round correctly. And it was one of those things where I would like put them on and then get to the end and realize like, oh, actually I know this is wrong. Think about it, take them all out, put them on a different way, and then somehow be stuck in the kind of like the similar position I was before. Then look at them again, pull them out, put them on the needle, confidently pull out the waist yarn that I had the stitches on, realize that of course I shouldn't have done that. Then yeah, it was a mess for about a full hour, but it was really nice to be able to be finished both sleeves at once. But yeah, I think I have some socks that I've been working on for like 3 months now that are 2 at a time, that I think I showed as a work in progress in the very first episode of the podcast, that I have not made any more progress on since then. And part of the reason why I think I haven't is because it's so fiddly. There's so much like pulling out of the cord and moving the needles around and moving the socks around, that and like the yarn management, that like my alternative would be knitting socks on a 9-inch circular, and I just love knitting in the round and not having to pull out the cord and move things around. And so I think having that is my preference, and that's probably why I haven't gone any further on those socks, if I'm going to be honest, because it's gotten too fiddly and I just didn't want to admit that to myself. But on the sleeves it was okay, because I knit sleeves magic loop anyway, so I think I always have to fiddle with the cord. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to attempt it for like a full-size sweater yet, because like that would really suck to realize, you know, a third of the way into knitting 2 full-size sleeves that I lost my knitting mojo. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried about how I feel about it, but yeah, certainly for this, it didn't take that long, except for getting started as per usual. And yeah, cute little baby sweater. And that is my first finished object. I don't have anything else to say about this. And speaking of not understanding children's bodies, let's talk about my second finished object, which is this. This is the Dahlia Barn Solo, and by Lene Holme Samsøe, I think, of LeKnit. And this is for a 4-year-old. And now I'm really confused, because this is for a 4-year-old and this is for a 1-year-old. And like, are these that much different in size? Like, what am I missing here? Like, basically the same size, no? Right? Like, I mean, these two sizes, like relatively, like this is the same sweater size. Like I'm low-key worried about this. Like, do children not only grow this much between 1 and 4? Okay, bye Scout Pool. Was I annoying? This is Scout. It's very upset. Yeah, so like, I mean, it's a little bit wider. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so I'm worried about that, and now maybe you can see me better and see the sweater better. I will show you once again this cast off that I am not a fan of. It is so messy looking. I don't know if it's worth all that faffing about with the needle and thread. Okay, but let's talk about this sweater. This is for a 4-year-old girl. We shall see, because it is for the same friend. She's visiting with both children. I guess her son is gonna have maybe like another sweater if it's not gonna fit her daughter. But yeah, I love this. I love the pattern and I love the way that it turned out. Ongoing question mark about fit aside, because this is the first time that I knit lace. And oh, look how beautiful the leaf turned out. Oh, it's so cute. And it continues on the back. And yeah, it was just, the pattern starts the lace motif back and forth, and then you join in the round, and so it kind of switches from front, like knitting flat to knitting in the round for the same motif. So I'm kind of proud that I was able to do that. It's only charted, and so there aren't any written instructions for each round. So keep that in mind. So given that I'm not sure it's the most beginner friendly lace pattern, however, it is the first time I knit lace. It is the first time that I knit lace, and I ended up being fine. It looks fine. And this pattern also includes a cardigan and a dress version. I wasn't sure I was gonna have enough yarn. This is knit from Rico Baby DK, and it is actually, I had one skein and then I unraveled the crop top that I was wearing in the last episode for a good reason, because obviously did not fit, like my boob almost fell out. And I still have probably about a skein left over. So I am kind of annoyed that I still have ended up with stash yarn, because I started with one ball and stash and kind of left with like one ball and stash. But yeah, it is almost done. Like, I'm calling this a finished object because the only step that is left is taking a button, like sewing a button on one end and taking crochet hook and making a chain for a button loop on the other. And that's also the step that I'm most worried about, because I do not like buttons. Like, I don't have any talent or eye for picking out buttons. And I tend to avoid patterns that have any buttons on them. Talk about something like on that subject soon. And then, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I did a twisted German cast on for the top and attempted the tubular cast off for the ribbing on the cuffs and the bottom, but I did it wrong for the cuffs and should have done it right for the bottom. It does look, I would say, neater than the Flax but honestly not that neat. And that's probably more to do with my own inadequacy with knitting 1x1 ribbing. So that's definitely part of it. I also have seen a lot of knitters online and podcasts talk about how a tubular bind off, because it's a sewn bind off, it's so tedious. You know, you've got that like long needle and thread, and I honestly didn't find it that tedious doing the cuffs on the sweater, not even the bottom hem, the cuffs here, until I was binding off the bottom of this sweater. And it's not that much wider than the Flax, but because this is a DK weight, knit on 3.5 needles, so like way more stitches. I just had this like long piece of yarn that I was just constantly threading back and forth, and was like over it immediately. And the other thing that I noticed with this yarn, and I'm not sure if it's because it's an acrylic or it's probably just because it's my life, like I was drawing the needle and the tapestry needle through, and every single time it would just like keep picking up cat hair and end up with these kind of like little, like almost pills that were getting caught. And yeah, I just don't know if it's worth it for me. Yeah, I'm not convinced. Again, I'll have to try it on a sweater of my own before I'm really ready to like kick it to the curb or anything. But yeah, this ended up being like a pretty tedious bind off, and at the same time, I'm really happy with it because look how freaking cute that lace is. Oh my gosh, they're leaves. Isn't that right, Harper? I'm sorry about the siren. Even though that's not my fault. Yeah, I mean, this was like, it was really cool to knit something and be like, wow, this is a picture that I'm making with the instructions of how to make a picture. Yeah, that was very, very satisfying. And I do want to knit more lace, which it's a shame because I have so many things that I want to knit and very little time and not that fast at knitting. So yes. This is the Dahlia Barn Solo. And that means that my gift knits are done and I can move back on to selfish knitting, and which will take us back into works in progress. Okay, pause for some tea. Okay, 2 works in progress. The first one is right in front of me. This is a test knit, so I'm really excited. This is my first time doing a test knit, and it is one more thing that I honestly didn't think that I would try to do in like my first year of knitting, but I saw the post for this pattern and I just really wanted to knit it, so I applied. And yeah, this is a terrible time to show this to you. Oh my God. Oh, what a mess. Okay. And it's like, there's like nothing to show. So this is the start of the Hemingway shorts by the Knitting Booth. And yeah, knitted shorts. I really got into the thought of having knitted shorts during Me Made May, and was like, oh, it'd be great if I could wear a whole knitted outfit. Realized I didn't have any bottoms, obviously, and didn't start this until June. But yeah, I'm really excited to have knitted shorts. What is happening here is I'm knitting actually just the hem. They're like, I think they're meant to be top down, so I'm going to be folding over this hem and putting elastic in, which is where that purl bump is for. And so as you can see, I've really not gotten very far on these. I had them totally backwards. Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm folding them down. I am waiting for the elastic of these, and that's kind of why I've been going a little bit slower, but the test is due around the end of July, so I think I'll be able to finish in time. But I do realize that I'm kind of falling behind, and I want to make sure that I do finish on time, because again, I don't knit that fast. It But yeah, I'm really enjoying them so far. I am knitting actually the smallest size, and I'm a little bit worried about that because I'm like pretty used to knowing what my bust measurement is now, but this is the first time I had to measure my hips, and it's like over the butt, I don't know. So I think I'm just on the edge, but I am using 100% cotton yarn, which will grow or like stretch out, so I'm not too fussed about it. Speaking of the yarn, that is another thing that will hopefully be okay with. I am using 2 stash yarns that I'm marling together so that I could hit gauge. So I am using 2 Hobbii cottons. This is the 8/6 and this is the 8/4, I believe. This is the same yarn that I used to knit the Summer Secret Crop and the Framework Bralette by Jessie May. And yeah, this is basically the same yarn in a different color, but in a fingering weight. And I tried a few different combinations of yarn. I think this one here is like a sport, maybe even DK, but I wasn't getting gauge with this held double, even going up or down a needle size, and I didn't try this on its own. But it actually is working out well in the marled effect, and it's giving me a thick fabric, but it's good because cotton doesn't have much elasticity and it is gonna stretch out, and given that like these are shorts and they're gonna go over the danger zones, I wanna make sure that it is totally opaque. And I think that this fabric will be. So you can see it's actually got a really nice kind of tanned, subtle khaki color with the marling, and I'm actually really liking how it's working up. I think it'll be a very wearable neutral with just like a hint of interest, so that it's like not quite beige, not quite white, not quite gray. Hopefully I have enough yarn though, fingers crossed. Yeah, that'll be interesting. If I don't, I don't know, like I'll rip it back and choose something else, which is the other reason why I want to get on it, because I need to know if I have enough yarn. But yeah, I'm really excited for this test knit, and I'm really excited to have shorts. I hope I finish in time so I can wear them out and about. And yeah, these shorts have pockets, which will be really exciting because I do like things with pockets. And that is that for that work in progress. Second whip. Okay, so this is where I was a little bit bad and cast this on when I should really have been working on this a bit more, even though my excuse was I didn't want to get too far before I needed the elastic. So I cast on the No Frills Cardigan by Petite Knit. This is something that has been in my queue for a couple of months now, and this is gonna be a bit of a slog because it is a top-down raglan cardigan, and I believe the fit of it will end up going quite a bit, like it'll go past my hips. Like it'll end up being quite a long cardigan I don't even know if it'll go past, like be longer than this. So, and it'll be, knit back and forth the whole time, knit flat for that whole time. And it is using like a DK weight on 3.5 mil needles. And yeah, like I've put in about a few days work already, and I'm kind of impressed with how long it's gotten. But I know that this will end up being like months and months because of how much more I need to knit it. But I have been thinking about this pattern for a few months now, and I cast this on, I think the reason why I've been thinking about this for a while now is that this is the first time I'm knitting something that actually, gosh, okay. Oh, you're back. Oh, you want to go blanket again? Do you want to go blanket? Blanket or no blanket? What are your thoughts? Scout? What are you thinking? Blanket? No blanket? No blanket? Good boy. What are you thinking, buddy? Good boy. Okay. Hopefully he stays over there. Yeah, so this is the first time that I've cast something on or started a project because I actually wanted the finished item really badly because there's a hole in my wardrobe, or like there's a need for it in my wardrobe. I'm actually not somebody who wears a lot of knitwear in my day-to-day life. I live in Vancouver, a city that is known for athleisure, and I wear a lot of athleisure at home, so it's mostly like yoga pants like this, some kind of sweatshirt since I work from home and have, you know, various cats around me, that I like wear things that generally are like easy care and comfortable, and doesn't include a lot of knitwear. So even though I've been knitting stuff, like it's not like I really need anything. I don't need anything. But when I started knitting the bralette and some of the crop tops, I realized I don't really have any cardigans to wear at home. I only have that like one white cotton cardigan. And yeah, I would like to have another one. And browsed through patterns on Ravelry for quite a long time because I had a very specific kind of taste in mind, and ended up really only finding the no frills and thinking that was the one that I kind of fit what I was looking for. Because what I was looking for was a cardigan that is like long, drapey, and has pockets, and no buttons, or at the very least like kind of meant to be worn open. And I wanted it longer than hip length because I don't like to turn the heat on in the winter. So if like I'm really cold, I want to really be able to wrap up in it like a shawl cardigan pretty much. So I wanted kind of ideally like a shawl collar as well. So yeah, this one ended up fitting the bill. And which is great because I don't understand buttons. I say that because like I don't wear a lot of items of clothing with buttons, because I don't know, I'm just not like drawn to that as a look. Like I know it's kind of weird that I'm sitting here saying like buttons. I don't care for buttons. As if like me as a person gets to decide this and like write off an entire huge category of clothing closure apparatus. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're kind of fiddly. I am quite clumsy and will generally button something up and realize like I missed a button somewhere, no matter what it is. And yeah, really like people say lazy, but I prefer the words like efficient or strategic. So I'm like, if something is closed, like it is closed, not like it's gonna take me like a full minute to get in and out of, like what? Oh no, I missed the button. Okay, now I gotta undo this all. Now I look like an idiot. So yeah, that's not usually drawn to pieces of clothing with that. And like what's more efficient than a cardigan that you can just like kind of wrap and it's closed, right? And also I don't have a good eye for choosing buttons, so that's why I'm really worried about the Dahlia sweater. Yeah, I do watch a lot of podcasts where they'll talk about these are the buttons I had in mind, or as soon as I saw these buttons, like I knew I had to have them, and like this project I knew I wanted like wood buttons or like bone buttons, and I'm like, I have no freaking clue what buttons, like what size, like what color, like I also I'm scared of doing like color work or like striping things, because in general, I'm just like, I don't know if I have a good eye for color. Like, I want things to be one color and I want them to be neutral so they can kind of go with each other. And so to introduce like another color or like whole other category into like a garment, it seems like a lot of stress to me. So yeah, really stoked that I don't have to do any buttons for this. And yeah, this is knit using Sandnes Garn Alpakka yarn in like this lovely dark gray heathered. I am knitting it in the smallest size, and my gauge, spoiler alert, is not on. It is more stitches than the more stitches per inch than the gauge in the pattern, which will mean that because I'm actually knitting this using smaller needles, the pattern calls for 4mm needles. I'm using 3.5 for two reasons. One, because I actually really like this fabric. The 4mm was giving me a bit too holey of fabric. I believe the original pattern like is a strand of mohair and a strand of fingering, and even this you can kind of see through this, but it was much more, yeah, you can kind of see that. It was much more obviously see-through with using a 4mm, and the other reason for that is because these are knit with a 4mm and I only have one pair, and like something had to give. So yeah, 3.5. I could have done, yeah, and I like the fabric. And also Petite knit, Petite knits patterns have a very generous amount of ease. The fit of this in the pattern is like 20 centimeters, like I think 8 inches of positive ease, which is a lot. So I'm actually not too fussed about doing the math, classic, because I think that this, if it's a little bit smaller, will be fine, because I don't think I need 8 inches of ease anyways. So where I am at with it, great grammar, is this will be the top back neck, and there's a seam kind of right here, which is the first time I knit the other way with a provisional cast on. Very exciting. And then now I am doing the increases for the raglan. So very quickly it has become a heckin' lot of stitches, and the cardigan will end up sitting like this. So yeah, I'm just doing the increases, and then after that I'll split for sleeves, and then knit, 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 pockets, something around here, and then sleeves. Very excited. I think I remember seeing on Knitting Traditions podcast that the front edges of this pattern, like the she could have, I think she did a few more increases here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that, because she also mentions that Inga mentions that she has broad shoulders and they kind of slip off or something. I don't have broad shoulders, so maybe I'll be fine, is kind of what I'm thinking. And what else? The fabric is so soft, the yarn is so soft, and it's so drapey. So I'm really liking knitting on this, and after a lot of cotton projects, it's nice to knit with a yarn that's got a little bit of elasticity, and I'm really looking forward to spit splicing instead of having to join in ends. But the downside of this project is that it is knit back and forth, so it's a lot of purling. But I am really proud of myself because the fabric that I am knitting up, like, my tension has gotten a lot better knitting flat. Before, it used to be like quite obviously rowing out, which is like the tension of the purls, the tension of the knits like are different, so they're almost like different sizes, and there's a little bit of that going on, but much less than before, and I think it'll totally block out. So yeah, look at that, I'm getting better over time. So yeah, you can expect this to be a whip for many more episodes. So if I have a lot more to talk about, I'm sure I'll talk about it then. And that is it for the knitting portion. And I guess there's like chatter, which is, as you can see, I am still trying to sell this apartment. It is very bad timing to sell apartments in British Columbia or in Canada because the interest rates have been going up, so that makes it harder for people to afford mortgages and thus buy apartments. So it's been very stressful, and I've had to do another open house over the last weekend, which is really stressful for the cats because we end up going to my parents, which I'm really fortunate to be able to do that. And I don't know if you can hear Scout snoring. He's over there snoring. But Scout and Harper especially, they don't like car rides, they don't like strange places, and they were very scared and kind of like gosling around me, like wherever I was, they were there, and Scout basically hid under a blanket under my legs for the entire weekend, which is kind of adorable. But yeah, that's the other reason why I was really loath to move him, because he's been through a lot of stress, the little fat one. But on the plus side, my parents have now given like Chinese nicknames to Scout and Atticus, who's not been on camera because he is in the bedroom sleeping, because he's kind of standoffish around me. They call Atticus the bad one because my mom loved him the most, because he's generally the most friendly, but he is also the most, like he really likes attention, and he doesn't care if it's good attention or bad attention, he just wants attention. So he'll like knock things off, he'll meow incessantly, and he got into a fight with my parents' cat, or about to get into a fight, and my mom tried to separate them, and she said that he like yelled at her and like almost scratched her, which my cats never do, like they never attack people. So I had to go and give him a lecture, which he was not happy about. So they started calling him the big bad cat, and Scout, my parents have started calling the big fat one, which is really fair. And in Chinese culture, it's not supposed to be insulting to call someone fat. Which I know is very, it's like very different than Western culture. It's just supposed to be like a comment on them physically, like it's not supposed to mean anything good or bad. I think my parents are saying it kind of cheekily, and he is chonky, and he has a heavy step. He's stout, and he's dense. But I love you so much. Okay, yeah, he's going back to sleep. And Harper, they call the little one, and they say that she's the nicest because she is the nicest. So yeah, I mean, send me good vibes on selling this apartment. I am like all up and down about it emotionally, and yeah, I am sad to be leaving again still, though at this point I'm like, will I leave? Will it sell? And the staging stuff is still here, and it is finally starting to warm up in Vancouver, which is good and bad. I would say that summer is not my favorite season, because I really don't like being hot. Like I way rather be too cold than too hot, and I don't mind being too cold. That's why I won't turn on the heat in the summer. And the downside of this apartment is it doesn't have AC, unless you want to buy it, in which case it's perfect. And yeah, so I'm not really looking forward to that. And I really don't like being hot to the point where like I'll just wear like I'll basically not wear it very much, which is not very professional of me. But on the other hand, like it's nice to be able to go, like I think everyone tends to be a little bit more outgoing in the summer, not that I'm doing hikes or anything, but like having dinners with people, so that'll be really fun. And yeah, and it's berry picking season in British Columbia, which is the province I live in. We're really blessed to have local fresh fruit, so it's strawberry season, and I've been trying to arrange a date with my girlfriends to go strawberry picking and then blueberry picking, and I would really love to just get like fill up my freezer with frozen berries so that I can have smoothies for like the next 8 months. Yeah, because local fresh fruit in BC is so delicious, and it's like when you go and pick strawberries, I end up eating about like 3 pounds and then paying for whatever I can't eat pretty much. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that is it. Oh, I guess this is like the Ursina on. I went with a slightly cropped. Yeah, it's definitely cropped, but like not mega cropped. I mean, what am I talking about? Boxy fit. It would be because of the half barrel, which really blocks out a lot. Covered in cat hair as per usual. And that is it. That is the podcast. I don't have anything else to talk about. Oh my god, I do want to show you all. Okay. Look at this one there. Who sleeps like that? Scout? That's all I have to say. Oh, he's so cute. Okay. Thank you for watching. If you like this episode, please give it a like and subscribe, or drop a comment with feedback. Everyone was very nice about the fact that I had a big wardrobe malfunction in the last episode. And thank you for watching, and happy knitting.